Sathya Sai Speaks, Volume 2, Chapter 34, The Broken Bow, Part 2. Second Day. The deer that stray into the forest where the hunter is waiting for game and that promise to come later and be his prey on pain of incurring the penalty for various heinous sins are teaching a Dharma Gita. And if you practice those virtues and avoid those sins, you can attain the bliss form, Ananda Swarupa, that you really are. The deer speak of sin, but remember that there is no sin as such. There are only errors due to ignorance or greed or envy or hatred. The principles of righteousness, Dharma, enunciated in this story have to be adhered to. It is not the hunter alone who nods approval. Every listener of the Purana must have approval. Even the slightest error has to be avoided by those who possess a developed conscience. It is unpardonable for a wise man to fall into error. But the error of an ignoramus, however dire the consequence, has to be passed over. Some people dismiss the Dharma Shastras as the fabrication of Brahmins and refuse to attach value to the rules and restrictions prescribed by them. But that is a false argument. The Shastras have the authority of Madhava, the Lord Himself. It is not Manava Dharma Sastra, but Madhava Dharma Sastra, not man-made but God-made. Light meal is the surest guarantee of health. The dharmic way of life is dependent on the quality, guna, of the individual. In chapter 18 of the Gita, the qualities and their characteristics are mentioned, as also the relationship between the type of food taken in and the character that emanates. The food decides the quality, and the quality seeks the food congenial to it. Thus, the vicious cycle moves on. In the Upanishads, there is a story in which a man and a cow approach the Lord and pray that they may be allotted their daily duties. The cow was told to serve the master who feeds and fosters her. The man was asked to practice righteousness, Dharma. He shuddered at the responsibility and wanted more freedom than such a life would impose. The Lord told him in answer that he is free to choose the path through which he could attain Him. He gave the cow as food the things that grow on the ground, and to people He assigned a morsel of food in the early hours of the day and another at the end of the day. He prescribed moderation in eating. Both came down to earth, and the cow now eats, and eats the eaten thing again. But man finds that a light meal is the surest guarantee of health. Face the truth and proceed toward truth. Arjuna was affected by the quality of inertia and doubt, tamoguna, which made him fall into the delusion of mine and my family. Faith in the Lord one moment, doubt about the consequences another moment. That was his condition. Well, you are also in the same predicament. One day you say, I must follow Baba's commands. The next day you start doubting, is it possible? That is why I am adjusting the conditions of your lives, so that you can pull yourselves up according to my orders. That is why I am granting you courage to develop faith, unshakable faith. But I find many of you do not yet walk along the path laid down in spite of the confidence I impart and the favorable environment I provide and the favors I bestow. This is, of course, deplorable. God has given people 100 years of life and plenty of work to fill the years with, but you fritter the time away in playful games and in founding and fostering a family, and you awake to the fact of preparing for death only when death knocks at your door. Then you feverishly pray for a little more extension of the span of life in order to fulfill the task for which you have been sent. You have no time to recite the name of the Lord or meditate on His form which is within you. Alas, you have time for the club, for a game of cards, for the film show, for wayside chats, for all kinds of trivialities, but no time for a little quiet, for a simple item like worship. It is a false excuse, this, the want of time. No, face the truth and proceed toward the truth. When you tread the path of Dharma, imperceptibly you will be drawn toward the truth, gently and steadily. The Gita is for granting liberation to all. See how the wicked hunter was transformed into a sympathetic listener by the appeals to conscience made by the first two deer. He is eager to hear what the third deer has to say about the disciplines laid down by scriptures, sastras, and the penalties imposed for the breach. He is also being slowly changed by the sound of the distant bells of the Shiva temple where the Mahashivaratri worship is being done. As a matter of fact, both deer and deer slayer are fiction. They represent the instruments for the teaching. It is all in the Lord's plan. Consider, for example, how long before the Gita was spoken, the Lord had got ready a Sanjaya who could see and hear whatever was done or spoken at a distance. His mission was to preserve the Gita for humanity. Arjuna was just an excuse to bring the Gita forth. The Gita is for saving all and for granting all liberation. Gita in Telugu means a line. It draws a line across and cancels the series of births and deaths. It teaches you to stand erect, unafraid, along the straight path of Dharma, along the line laid down. You should gradually get rid of attachments that led you astray. Only then can you stand erect without bending under the load. But nowadays, instead of eliminating mental agitations, every effort is made to multiply them. It is like giving a monkey a drink of toddy. It will behave even more monkishly. That is all. I refer to the grant of spiritual titles to spiritual aspirants, extolling their attainments. They are intoxicated by these titles conferred by over-enthusiastic or pompous gurus. They become lights or stars or stagers or Paramapurushas, highest persons. They are thereby rendered more liable to spiritual disaster through bloated egoism. Doctors who are expected to administer drugs to patients afflicted with poison are now administering poison to persons in perfect health. The giver of the title and the recipient are both blameworthy. One aggravates the egoism they pretend to cure, the other revels in tawdry jewelry. Do not decry ancient scriptures. The caste stage discipline is a deep-rooted tree, the shade of which affords shelter to all the various communities of humanity. Do not decry that discipline or the ancient scriptures. They are your authority to confirm my truth. It is through the study of those scriptures that you can picture the grandeur of divinity. Do not decry Vishnu or Shiva for the reason that your devotion is toward some other name and form you seek to honor. Why, even if you dishonor a person, be warned you are dishonoring me, for I am in them. Honor the Atma of which they are an encasement. Honor the imperishable Atma that you are, and do not commit any act that will insult that basic reality. The deer in this story only show the hunter that the path to self-realization consists of 4 stages: scriptures, virtue, devotion and truth; Shastras, Dharma, Bhakti and Satya. I shall fulfill your wishes at your own place. One more word. Perhaps many of you are worried that I have not yet started calling you individually and granting you interviews in which you could tell me your troubles and where I could bless you personally and send you home. But you are so many in number. I would like to see first the old and the sick and those who will find it difficult to come again. Surely the others will approve of that. Besides, it is enough if you call me from wherever you are. In my case, there is no need for you to travel long distances and spend hard-earned money. I shall fulfill your wishes at your own place. I shall from tomorrow grant you this privilege of a personal talk in the room, and I shall come down 4 times a day for the purpose, spending almost the whole day with devotees. Let me tell you one thing. Of course, I can bear anything for your sake. I have come down to save you and guide you. But somehow I cannot tolerate the smell of tobacco, of bidis and cigarettes. Can you not postpone the disgusting practice for an hour and come to me without that insufferable smell? Besides, I have laid down certain disciplines and codes of conduct for you here. I would ask you to study the list and practice them not only within this compound, but in your own places wherever you happen to live. 3rd day. Veerabhadram read the last part of the Shivaratri story now. The deer return and insist that they be killed. Their hunter, chastened by their truthfulness, their teachings, and by the holy vigil that he unknowingly went through on the auspicious night, refuses to kill them. He breaks his bow, and, with tears of repentance, he is overwhelmed by the animal's adherence to the promise made. The deer try to persuade him to kill them, but the hunter wriggles out. He argues that he had to kill them under the tree where he had spent the night, waiting for prey, and not near his cottage to which the deer had come in the morning. Virtuous action is the best discipline. The wicked heart was transformed by the hearing of good words and of the temple rites and bells. That is the subtle alchemy of the surroundings and the company. Some places have a tremendous impact on the mind. The atmosphere is surcharged with the name of God on account of the generations of devotees who assemble there. That is why I say virtuous action, dharma karma, is the best discipline. That means action surcharged with devotion. That will itself lead to spiritual wisdom, jnana, where the world is found to be a dream and the only reality is the all-pervading grace of power. The atheist, Nastika, is blind, ignorant, and afflicted with a fever that spoils the sense of taste. The atheist finds everything bitter. The believer in God, Astika, on the other hand, is able to feel the true taste of everything. bitter as bitter, sour as sour, sweet as sweet. But the person of realization, Yastika, tastes all things and all experiences as sweet, filled with the sweetness of God. Prahlada was a man of realization. He was beaten, trampled upon, and cast into fire and water, but he tasted only sweetness at all times. He overcame every calamity with the reinforcement derived from the name Narayana in the heart. There is a secret spring in the heart that will well up when the name is uttered, and that will slake your thirst. Speak without malice, speak to transmit joy. The ordeals that Prahlada had to endure only demonstrated his attainment. Once the Lord entered the house of a liberated person as a thief, and when the master of the house caught him and argued, "You are a thief, I have caught you," the Lord said in reply, "As long as the ideas you and I inhere, there can be no wisdom," and disappeared. It is easy to mug up verses and texts and quote them profusely, but it is useless unless you act in accordance with what you say. Practice of austerities, anushtanam, brings about God's grace, anugraham. Act and earn His grace. By the belch you can judge the food, as the flour so the bread. Vivekananda was able to declare at Chicago the worth of Sanatana Dharma, eternal universal religion, in an unmistakably leonine tone, because he had the strength of the practice of austerities behind him. The driver of a car should be alert when driving along a rough road infested with potholes, not merely along smooth concrete highways. So too, you must know how to avoid the temptations of falsehood and how to sail along the smooth road of truth. You may say that every often you are caught in a dilemma by the conflicting demands of truth and falsehood. Remember the Gita saying, "Speak without malice or hatred or envy. Speak the truth, speak to comfort, to console, to transmit joy." Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam pritikaram. When in difficulty, pray for guidance before jumping in any direction. People will give you advice only as far as their cleverness can reach. But the Lord, who transforms dullness into intelligence, will reveal to you the way out of the dilemma. Ask the Lord and He will answer. The Lord revealed the proper course to the hunter. Finally, he broke the bow and arrows and other deadly weapons as a result of that inspiration. The arrows are the symbols of vice and wickedness. He realized himself that way. Those who come to Puttaparthi come by many ways. From Bombay via Guntakal, from Bangalore via Chikbalapur, from Nellore via Pakala, from Madras via Jollarpet. But all have but one goal and one joy on arrival. Whether it is four anna coins or 2 half-rupee coins or a 1 rupee coin, the value is the same. Realization attained by any one of these means is of the same truth, of the same grandeur. It means the same spiritual victory. Shed tears of thankfulness at the Lord's feet. The Lord will manifest where and when you yearn for Him. If you yearn that He should come before you in flesh and blood, He will respond. He is ever ready to respond. but you are not ready to invite or welcome or receive him into your heart. You have not purified the heart and removed therefrom the thorns of lust and greed, of envy and hatred. The baby that has been fed on milk may start crying. Do not be worried, for it is very helpful for digestion. Cry so that you can digest the joy of knowing God. Cry and shed tears of joy. The tear glands have been allotted to you, not for weeping helplessly before others with hands extended for alms, but to shed tears of joy, of thankfulness at the feet of the Lord. Do not get dejected. Really, you are all lucky, eminently fortunate that you are here now in the presence, listening to these words. Take your fill of this essence of bliss, Ananda Rasa, and, having digested it, come again with a sharpened appetite. Mahashivaratri Katha, Prashanti Nilayam, 8th, 9th, 10th of March, 1962.